everybody, and welcome back to the European Masters. Stakes are high right now. Our last two games of the day in the Group B Bonanza mean a lot. I mean, every scenario, Supa will now be playing a tiebreaker. No, sorry, 3 of the 4 scenarios they'll be playing a tiebreaker, and one of them they will just go straight into second place. And it starts with Misfits winning this first game.
Yeah, but honing in on the other two, the big thing is G2 Arctic, because they have to win back-to-back, which is a hard task by any means, but especially one of those is against Misfits Premier. The pressure is definitely on for them. They've started their return to form, although I will say that their first win against Supa looking a little underwhelming in that one. The question is, can they take down the second French seed, who have been performing so well this week? And even if they can do that, can they then go on to beat a Go Rogue as well? Because again, they need both to have a chance. It's not enough just to have that first win.
It'd be amazing for Misfits to get a 3-0 week 2 here. They drop one game, means they are, just one kind of behind Carmine Corps. Their brothers over in Group D with the amount of wins they're finding. So it'd be a really big one for Misfits, if anything, just for pride. But for G2, it's about a former glory of Spain, really, because the Superliga, it's kind of been a while. It's felt like a while since we've looked at them as this amazing unbeatable region, and it's all been LFL. So if they can beat the LFL representatives in this group, kind of turning around what was been a horrible start to the European Masters for G2 Arctic, that is going to be really, really key for them here.
Yeah, I mean, 2018 was a year of the Superliga, and prior to that, when we had the EU Challenger Series, they were the dominant ERL everyone talked about. And since then, a lot of regions have played catch-up. Not really the NLC, unfortunately, but we've seen the LFL, we've seen the likes of the Prime League, we've seen the Ultra Liga, all managing to secure wins and just look so strong in comparison. Superliga are still a very relevant region, but they no longer hold that top spot. And this is an opportunity for G2 Arctic to make out of groups, prove that even the third seed for the region can still hold their own. Obviously, we have seen the likes of UCAM doing a really strong performance in group stages, but still need a bit more to prove yourselves. For now, I think G2 Arctic, it's a tough road, and the Misfits Premier game, obviously you can talk a lot about, the pressure isn't on Misfits Premier as much. Maybe they let slip on that regard, but we've seen them so good this week. And I feel like if they're playing at even 50%, it's going to be a hard match. And I don't expect them to hold any punches. I expect them to come in full on with this one. And a lot of their game plan has been playing around that early game and causing issues there.
Well, we've seen a trade-off of the Hecarim and the Udyr. Neither team wanting to handle one of those. If the Udyr is banned away, they don't want to go for that trade-off. So the Fresh going to be the next ban by G2 Arctic. Now Misfits Premier, what are they going to look to ban away? The Seraphine has obviously been a pretty standard one, along with that Tristana. So these are probably the bans we do expect to see a little bit of. We have seen a lot of attention on the Kai'Sa as well. Although with the Hecarim taken away, I feel like it loses a little bit of value because you kind of build like a massive dive comp with that. So for now, it's just the Tristana.
Keeps options a little open in terms of what G2 Arctic want to ban away. Seraphine kind of needs to be banned at this point. But just from you have had a tendency to ban away Silas quite frequently, particularly in the matchup when they last played up against G2 Arctic. So wonder if we'll see that one come out as a ban, or if they sort of moved away from it. Actually going for the Senna here and denying that one. Something that obviously has a lot of priority contention in the bot lane, but also scales very well, potentially putting a damper on Misfits Premier's plan. Now, when it comes down to G2 Arctic, and it'll be a bit of an interesting one if they're prioritizing Orianna this high. We have seen it quite a bit in that second rotation on blue side, not so much first pick, but obviously caring a lot about that mid lane priority. And Fresskowy has been a really strong performer for the team, even in their rough games, and particularly when they're in planes and doing well. Now Misfits Premier in a position where they can answer. A lot of options still open for the bot lane. Maybe want to look towards something like the Volibear in the jungle if they want to take something. But to be honest, I feel like for Shlatan, they tend to leave him late so they can look for that counter pick and give him a good matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up the Alistar. Obviously something like we saw in the last game synchronizes up very well with the Orianna thanks to that ball delivery service. And Misfits just looking to pick themselves up their mid laner. So they're going to go for the Akali as their pick into the Orianna. Things like the Syndra and the Victor were open, but Sertuss wanted them to play something a little bit more aggressive. Now, technically, it is flexible, although typically after the changes, it has been pretty much exclusively been run in the mid lane. They're going to pick the Galio up here for Wachon in the bot lane. See what AD carry look to pair with that. It's going to be the Kai'Sa. So this is actually a really nice combo there. Kai'Sa lands the Void Seeker, jumps in with the Killer Instinct, and then a Galio slams into the backline. In a team fight scenario, you have the Shockwave layered in on the top of that as well. It can be a really, really hard matchup to go into.
Yeah, actually, I really like the Galio in this situation. Does well on the Alistar, obviously great at locking him down and actually interrupting his combo. But also, if the Akali does go into a Shroud, you can essentially just channel your taunt on top of it. Really easy to lock it up. And gonna see Misfits Premier go for the Draven, so a very aggressive pick. And this is difficult for the Kai'Sa. You just really aren't gonna be able to trade effectively into this. You're gonna get chunked out in lane, struggle in terms of priority. But it is very much a feast or famine pick. If you do start to fall behind, you're gonna fall hard.
Yeah, this is the thing about that Draven. Like you said, really dominant in lane, but if you don't snowball, if you don't start cashing in on those adoration stacks, it gets really rough for the Draven, especially into what G2 puts together. Picking up your axes with a Galio Orianna, able to taunt and put the ball on where your axes are going to be landing, not being able to reset that, is going to make your life hard. It's kind of down to what G2AR are going to want to pick up as their next picks here. But for now, the bans are coming in. It's going to be the Graves and the Volibear so far. Next ban, expect to probably be another jungler or a top laner.
I could see the Nocturne being a good ban in this situation. I feel like Nocturne Galio is a really strong combo. You have the follow-up potential of the Orianna. I would actually be a bit concerned for the Draven if you left that one available. So maybe that's something they want to shut down. Although, to be fair, Shlatan is pretty good at shutting down junglers with his early pressure. So we'll see whether they want to deal with that one. They're actually going to ban away the Nidalee, something that Shlatan does lean on heavily himself. So wondering what they're going to end up bringing out in this situation. But clearly just wanted to clamp down on the pools. G2 Arctic, we'll see if they want to follow through with another jungle ban here. Are going for the Lilia. So pools have been stamped on heavily in terms of the jungle. And it depends. Misfits Premier may have something left open that they want to prioritize in this situation. They may just want to look for counter pick, and they may feel like they have something they're happy to lean on as a pocket pick.
I'm curious to see, or curious to hear what your thoughts are on maybe Misfits taking the Nocturne themselves here as a denial from G2. Or do you think it's not really suiting their comp?
I don't think it's as effective. It does offer a lot of dive pressure, but
there he is, two times today.
I think it's a bit tricky in things like the Galio, although obviously Galio can't ult, but he can just channel the taunt. But Kayn comes in, really strong jungler if he can get rolling, but obviously that's a big if. We saw it earlier today not go as successfully, and G2 Arctic are hovering the Nocturne. I think you lock it in. I think this is great for the composition.
Looks like they might change it up a little bit here, deciding to go away from that zone, but can maybe skirmish the Kayn a little bit better earlier. Are going to go for the Olaf as their pickup in the jungle. And remember, you could still go Nocturne top lane if you want. We've seen a lot of Nocturne top. Are going to lock in something a little bit more frontliney in that Sion. And realistically, there's still 3 people that you can ult on if you're Galio, because you can get the ult popped from the Ragnarok pop from the Olaf. You can just run through the team and then place it perfectly. You got the charge from the Sion or the Kai'Sa sliding in. So it's not as effective as the Nocturne, but they do still have tools. And now Misfits looking to pick something up for their top lane to answer out onto this Sion. So if it's going to be effective in the side lane and in the team fights, as they pick the Wukong for themselves. So
a ton of dive potential coming in from Misfits Premier. And with the context of how that comp's going, maybe the Nocturne could have worked for them, but the Kayn going to be able to provide that pressure. Really strong ganking paths. And I think if you're looking towards bot lane as somewhere you want to prioritize, which obviously with the Draven you do, the Kayn can lend itself to that. You do have to be concerned though, because if it does turn into a 3v3, that Olaf is going to be problematic. The side of G2 Arctic, huge backline, strong late game, huge backline with strong late game carries, strong tanky front line. They've got a lot of CC available, but it's just navigating the team fights correctly. If it's a front to back, you're great. If they end up finding flanks, you're going to be in trouble. And the critical thing is also navigating this pressure in the bot lane. Fortunately, Shlatan isn't on a pick that is going to just absolutely steamroll the early game just by default. But if he does manage to find success, he's going to become problematic later on. And again, bot lane, going to be a potential problem.
Yeah, these are the kind of things we need to do. Yeah, God, apparently I can't talk. These are the kind of things we do need to keep our eyes out onto. Like we said, stakes are high. These last 2 games honestly mean a lot. A little less for Misfits. They are locked into first. So for them, they are just playing upset, and for Pride to kind of, keep the LFL powerhouse alive, really, with a 3-0 week 2 and only 1 loss in the first week. an absolutely stellar run through this group for the side of Misfits if they can find this win here. Although we did see G2, we've had one game out of them so far today, and it was a very different team from what we had in week one. They were performing a lot better, a lot more aggressively. They weren't just kind of rolling over. And it was more like the G2 we saw that destroyed Fnatic Rising in the play-ins. The G2 that absolutely stomped their way through the play-in stage of the European Masters. I can see the sadness spread across your face there, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough one. I think it's good to see them start to bounce back, because it was kind of painful to see them end up stomping so hard through play-ins and then just kind of flopping. It was kind of something had clearly gone wrong in that, and they are starting to sort of redeem themselves. And we've seen Misfits Premier struggle. I think the big thing with this composition is they want to be finding successful skirmishes, and something that G2 Arctic have improved on massively. Again, it's only one game so far, but they looked much better at taking good fights for themselves, coordinating those, not getting picked off, and being more proactive in themselves. In a lot of the week one games, there was moments where people were just caught straggling, walking around. They were going into fights that weren't necessarily favorable for them, or they didn't have the odds stacked in their favor, and they have started to look better at that. But they need all of that in spades if they're going to be able to challenge this Misfits Premier lineup, who, again, they've been looking on fire. I
think the big thing for me is momentum. Like, Misfits have built up the momentum. They've gone 2-0 so far. They know they're one away from that perfect week. It's you got to stop this boulder that is already rolling. They've already warmed up. G2 have only played one game so far today, and it was a little bit of a while ago. So they had that win, they had that high, and then it's kind of cooled off and simmered. So it's about them kind of getting their game heads on. As we do have ourselves a brief pause before we get into game 5. If you're wondering why you're staring at our ugly mugs for this much longer than normal. But yeah, it's gonna be very much about whether or not G2 can find themselves a game similar to game number 1, where they play more aggressively and not kind of rolling over like they did in week 1.
Yeah, and it comes from the early contest and the game plan there. I feel like you have the Olaf, so you want to be dictating the pressure, you want to be tracking the Kayn and shut them down. The ideal scenario for Misfits Premier is a lot of fights that go in their favor. You get the Kayn stacking early, you get the Draven rolling, and if you can get some shutdowns, some cash-ins, he'll be in a really good spot. And I think the big thing for me is you expect that play around bot lane, because I feel like this is going to be the blue Kayn most likely coming out of this game. There are a lot of tanks the other side, so potentially you could go in the other direction, but based on what that comp's looking to do, I feel like, and also Shlatan's aggressive playstyle, blue could be the likely one. And if that's the case, then playing around bot side, getting those stacks from the range Kai'Sa absolutely suits your game plan going forwards. One thing that I feel like could have worked potentially for G2 Arctic was maybe, we talked about that Nocturne, something like the GP in the top lane to apply that global pressure bot. But without that, it's not like they're going to be unable to do that. But I think a lot of the pressure will come from mid. You secure mid priority, you transfer it down, use the Orianna that you first pick to do that.
Well, G2 Arctic top laner Oscarinin has reported a bug where he was unable to change runes. League officials are investigating, and we will remake with the same picks and bans as soon as possible. We'll give you an update once we have it. So that's what's going on at the moment. So we'll just be a little bit longer before we get back into the action, into the game. But with the same picks and bans, it's not like we have to do any more theorizing. We know what we're working with here. So I'm going to ask you about individual players while we got this time, Orcs.
Sure.
What players on G2 and Misfits have stood out to you? Let's start with G2, because they're the ones who, this win is super important to them. What player do you think we're going to be seeing G2 play through?
I think it has to be jungle, just based on the draft. I think obviously you can look at it and sort of say who's been successful. Jungle is super important currently in the current meta, and I think just with how they've been playing as well, it's going to come down to Koldo. Fresskowy, you can sort of argue him a little bit as well. Mid priority is going to be vital, so I expect the mid jungle to be the big thing. And out of who's been stepping up so far, I think Fresskowy has been the one who's looked best so far when they've been doing well. He's had some really solid performances. On the side of Misfits Premier, again, I feel like we're looking at a similar place. Shlatan, often going to be the one dictating plays, but all in all, I'd say Sertuss has been the one to watch for me. In their first week, he had games where he had ridiculous kill participation. It felt like there were more players on the enemy team in some of their matches. It felt like it was a 6v5 instead of a 5v5, because Sertuss was just everywhere, and I feel like consistently you're being outnumbered. And when it comes to League of Legends, when it comes to playing around your macro, a big aspect of it is finding numbers advantages when it comes to those fights. If it's 4 champions against 3, if it's 5 champions against 2, as long as it's in your favor, you're likely going to come out well. Obviously, there is the sort of talking point, well, if you're devoting all those resources bot side, surely that leaves up pressure on the other side of the map. But Misfits managed to handle it in such a way where it didn't even feel like they were giving anything up. I think a big aspect is how they drafted that early priority and look to lean on that to make their rotation so much easier and so much harder to punish.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about the bot lane as well, because there's been a bit of a change up for G2AR. They brought in a different support from week 1 to week 2. Do you think that was a big factor in their win versus Supa? Because Supa looked a little lost in their first 2 games, but then we saw a Supa on fire. So it wasn't like they were off form today. I just think they maybe got caught a little bit in their first 2 games. So, and I think a lot of that could have been down to this bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wukong was doing some solid plays. I'm not sure how much of it was specifically down to him, but the big thing that always comes into mind is what role are they taking that's beyond just their play? In terms of play, I'm not sure it was a complete factor, but oftentimes we don't know the full reasoning behind the substitution, but sometimes a different voice, a different perspective can contribute in these scenarios, a different outlook. And I think having someone there who's, whether it is him or just the team has found someone who's been able to step up and take this role, having someone who can sort of go, okay, this is how we're setting up the fight, this is how we're setting up the play, this is what's effective for us, is really important. So hard to call whether that is the difference maker, but you can definitely see a difference in their play overall. And I think that time off has helped quite a bit.
Well, the pause is still ongoing. Hopefully it won't be too much longer before we get into the action today. I'm going to ask you, Orcs, about your time here at the European Masters. First one online for us anyway. How are you feeling about that?
It's obviously not ideal. It'd be nice to be, as much as I do give you grief a lot, Jake, it would be nice to be in person with you. And also, obviously in the later stages, being able to have a live event has been great. But fortunately, it's the way of the world at the moment. It's pretty cool seeing the LPL finals, obviously. Shout out to Dagda and
it was
Penguin.
It made me very jealous to see
I mean, honestly,
a live crowd. I can't remember the last time I saw a crowd of people.
But I mean, that was great. They killed that, obviously did a great job. And just having the crowd in the background cheering was pretty crazy. Definitely, yeah, I agree with you. A bit jealous, missed that. And hopefully next year Masters can look forward to some of that.
We say miss that, but we've never had a crowd like that, me or you, to be fair.
Not on that scale, but, you know.
Not on that scale, no. I mean,
there's been
the
some
sound,
crowds, man. You know. There's been, you know, a few people at least.
It's like 10? It's fine. Oh, baby, we're into game. Here we go. G2AR versus Misfits Premier. We apologize about the extended pause. Kind of just making up for the fact that game number 3 was so quick, really. We're still on schedule, baby.
Yeah, I mean, 17-minute game was pretty fast. You know, I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to make a statement. And if I'm wrong, then everyone's allowed to flame me on Twitter. That's probably the fastest game we've had at EU Masters so far this split.
Definitely this time around, yeah. I couldn't tell you about all the other times.
Would you bet on it? Would you bet that's the fastest match we've had?
I feel like that'd be a pretty safe bet.
I feel like it's a pretty rough bet because the thing is we've had so many matches, you know?
Yeah, I know.
It's been a lot of EU Masters.
It's because I've been involved in the majority of them, so I feel like I should know this, but it's been so many games. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, to be honest, though, if I'm going to be real with you.
I feel like that's
my mind is like a sieve.
I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's like, you know, some things I can just remember, and then some things it's like, if someone went, what did you eat for dinner 3 nights ago? I'm like, food?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the things you're remembering are, because, yeah, I can remember key moments in my life. I can remember finishing school and getting my exam results.
Don't lie,
I can't remember what I had for breakfast 4 nights ago.
Jake.
4 days ago.
You don't have to pretend. You never finished school. We all know the truth.
I did finish school, and it was a very depressing time. Anyway, blue buffs are going to get started up between both of these junglers. Means they will be clearing on the opposite side of the maps. We could see potential map split. I don't know whether or not the teams want to go for that.
Shlatan's not interested in that. No, sorry, is interested in the map split. Isn't interested in going for some passive play. Already moving over to those Raptors. Start this big engage.
They flash forward and Supa is on for so much damage. Woolite's catching axes after axes. No, he did miss one. Might not be enough to get the full damage in. Woolite is so low. So is Supa. As Wachon just jumps forward and bolts straight back out of it. Action. Plenty in the bot lane.
That was bold. Typically, we don't see Alistar do much level 1. You don't have your combo available to you. Jactroll flashes in for the 2-man Q. I guess they have the ignite advantage. And if an exhaust came down, they had the cleanse. But Misfits had to take one. And now Shlatan. Oh my lord, we said they were going to play for bot.
They are playing for bot. Supa's going to teleport away as the taunt isn't going to land onto him. And Wachon just pieces out. First blood to Shlatan.
Great play coming out. Unfortunately, isn't the Draven, but in all honesty, didn't have too many stacks already to be working with. It is Conqueror, so expecting to see the red Kayn actually. Oh, Sertuss putting a lot of damage here. It's just the roam squad coming in. Agresivoo running up back towards top lane.
Death ball.
Yeah. It's what we expect from Mrs. Premier. Finding numbers advantages on the map.
Oh, it's so tragic for Fresskowy. Sertuss jumps in and just gets a little bit of damage off. The tower shot actually does a lot, but now it's Koldo who's being contested. This is just painful for G2 Arctic.
Look at the replay. So obviously went for the invade. Question mark pings coming out. It's too late. TP coming in to secure it. And they just fully committed. Great flash from Shlatan to avoid the CC from the Galio. Wacon's just like, I'm out. I'm done. 80 carries on their own. And quickly leaves on that one. And we're straight back into another fight.
All right. You guys need a farm. Get some gold. Stop it.
This is great for Mistress Premier. They want non-stop fighting because the more it happens, the quicker they're getting those stacks onto the Kayn. They do opt to go for the red Kayn. I think a big factor is seeing the likes of the Olaf and the Sion come in. I think it's a better call. It does mean they have a little bit less pressure in terms of dealing with that backline, but it also means Shlatan's going to be extremely difficult to deal with and take out in the later stages. This front line of the Akali, the Wukong, and the Kayn are going to be so problematic. And again, the more fighting goes on like this, the more he's going to be able to get those stacks. And already he's built up a massive CS lead thanks to those invades, really denying a lot of camps away from Koldo.
Yeah, it did give a bit of free time to see a bit of farm up. Has built a slight CS lead over Woolite, although Woolite will be collecting this wave. So we'll be able to alleviate some of that. But it's a free base to Supa. And Fresskowy has a large wave that is building up in the face of Sertuss. And speaking of CS leads, he himself has been able to accrue a fairly nice one. Oscarinin has been able to farm up a bit himself as well. As the death ball has meant some of these laners have just been able to kind of chill solo farm for G2 Arctic.
But all in all, not too much of a concern. Again, it's about getting that Draven head. It's about getting that Kayn to the form as soon as possible. Is really the win con, and the more fighting that comes in, the more favorable that's going to be. Ultimately, G2 Arctic, it's kind of tricky. They want their carries to be fed, and the big thing is that the more fed members on Misfits Premier is going to be difficult, because the likes of Agresivoo, if he's diving in, if he's trading lives, it's still going to be favorable for him, because once Supa and Fresskowy go down, there's no one really left to deal with Shlatan. Like, he is just going to heal so much off this front line. That's very much going to be the win con when it comes to team fights. And right now, Wacon's level 2 still in the bot lane.
Yeah, Wachon obviously had to answer a bunch of this roaming, which has been really detrimental. As Koldo maybe looking to come in. There is no vision, actually. No, so Wacon's just going to jump forward. He's got himself the taunt. It's going to connect onto two. Supa's just firing away. The axe will slow Jactroll down.
Didn't actually connect. The axe was just a tiny bit short of hitting Jactroll, so able to get away. Ignite actually gave him a speed buff as well, thanks to Nimbus Cloak. So Jactroll quickly able to evade that one. And his flash is now up and available again. So they go for that play again.
Are they doing it again?
I think they are. Kayn is coming down. I don't think you can go for this play in this situation. Koldo's wasting so much time here as well. Look at the CS difference in the jungle. And he's sitting around playing with a bot lane. This is not going well for him.
Yeah, he's actually going to get spotted out entering into the camp. Shlatan has Sertuss at his back. And Koldo may just have to give this up. Fresskowy does have 6. It does have that shockwave, meaning Shlatan needs to be a little bit careful. So does Sertuss. The ball can get set up. Bit of damage coming in, and I actually didn't see who picked up the big chicken. I think it was Shlatan.
It was Shlatan, yeah. He got the smite in and got the upgrade as a result. So able to deny another camp away, and this difference between junglers is just expanding. If we can actually have a look at the gold, we'll be able to see it's going to be pretty substantial at this point. We're like playing with fire a bit, but actually Supa taking the weekend of that trade.
Well, thanks to the Blood Rush, able to dodge away on the Taunt and the Void Seeker. So that's agree. Yeah. Agresivoo, there we go, got his name out.
Got it in the end.
Did roam down towards the mid lane just to have a little look around and sniff and see where Fresskowy is, but it's just going to pop back up towards the top lane. Shlatan picks up the blue buff. Nice thing about having that Akali is you don't have to give her the blue. Shlatan's coming in though towards this bot side. He does have the Umbral Trespass available to him, and super half health. Jactroll's going to look to jump in. Wachon trying to get the taunt off, but he's interrupted as they just get all of the damage off, and Woolite will cash in on the kill. An extra 319 gold in the pocket.
That's a lot of gold to cash in. Obviously, gets a bit concerning the more and more you let those stacks build up. So nice from Mrs. Premier to hand that one over. And Supa also misses out on this wave as well. Starting to fall really behind in this matchup. And that's the thing. You're a short range carry as a Kai'Sa. You don't really have too much choice when you're going up against a Draven. If you're in range, you're going to be trading autos, and he is definitely going to be winning in this game with that gold lead and also just the raw strength of the axes. And Shlatan again, spending more and more time fighting, really favoring him getting his form soon in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how close he is actually towards his upgrade, but can't be too far off. Although he has been fighting bot side and range champions, so that will slow him down actually getting the red Kayn evolution.
Yeah, I think he might be pretty close to getting in the range from and then have to just wait on it. Fortunately,
it's 4 or 5 minutes though, isn't it? It's fairly lengthy.
Yeah. But that's the unfortunate situation. That's why I felt like maybe he was going to go for the blue Kayn simply because if the game con was playing around bot, you're more likely to pick that one up. But it makes sense. The red Kayn is going to favor him in the long run in this game. It just means it's a little bit delayed. But ultimately, you're not too concerned about that. I think Misfits Premier are okay with this game going in the later stages, despite the fact that G2AR, they have that team fighting composition. They need to play team fights in a very certain way. And if Misfits Premier play it to favor them, looking for those flanks, looking for that backline access, then they're still going to be pretty comfortable and confident with that one.
Well, there was a lot of action at the beginning of this game, Orcs, but it does feel like it has slowed down a little bit, and this somewhat is okay for G2. They gave up those kills, but as long as they can kind of farm up and get the members tankier on the front line, super his items, which I assume will probably be a Gale Force this game and not the Kraken Slayer.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense in my mind to go for. I think you need that extra safety, that extra dash to the outplay. There's so much dive threat on the side of Misfits Premier, and it really plays well into a 2-carry composition for now. Dragon's still left up at 10 minutes. Misfits Premier not really too fussed about it, happy to leave it open. And actually we see Jactroll moving up towards the top side, potentially looking towards this Herald as a contest point.
Cool, Sertuss able to dodge away as Wachon did look for the taunt.
It's chunked out quite a bit, but there is Honey Fruit, and they are just going to start up the Herald, looking to secure that one. I expect to see this used bot lane, or at least to funnel the gold into Woolite, I think is a good call. But in all honesty, you have 3 lanes which can snowball very effectively. You're kind of spoiled for choice here in terms of Misfits Premier.
No one's answering out of the dragon either on the side of G2, so they are just shoving waves and really not in position. They're now moving over towards this dragon area, but it's quite a slow turn here. And the crab will spot them out on it, so Misfits will be very much aware of what is going on. And now actually rotating multiple members over towards this dragon area. They will be pretty slow though, but they will look for the fight. Smite's going to come down. Remember, Wachon doesn't have his ult yet as the teleports are coming in. They are looking for the fight. Woolite going to just stand aside a couple of members and get the slow off as Sertuss jumps in forwards. Here comes Agresivoo, gets himself a knock up at the moment, and a shockwave just lands onto no one. The teleport is coming in. Agresivoo able to do what he needs for the moment with that Cyclones. He pops the second charge. G2 will be forced away. They lose 1 member, but they gain the dragon at least.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like Misfits Premier weren't quite in position to punish that instantly and get more members. They still are able to pick up a kill, but yeah.
Koldo might just die here. Sertuss flashes forward and secures the kill. Oscarinin, yes, he's tanky, but doesn't really have anyone to help him do any damage. Just get a bit of a knock-up off as Shlatan uses the Umbral Trespass. The teleport's getting used, and G2, they are not done. They want to fight now. Still, no ultimate available as the shockwave is going to land onto 2. The pop comes in, and that is a double kill for Supa.
Definitely something you need. Misfits Premier just a bit over aggressive. They didn't need to contest that dragon. It was already gone. They didn't need to take the fight. They didn't need to overstay on the bot side, but they end up doing so, and it just becomes very messy. I feel like this is just a bit of an overreach. They still managed to get a kill, which is fair enough, but you don't need to be putting these resources down here. You could have gone for the mid lane tower. You could have thrown the Herald down and taken that. Instead, they're going bloodthirsty. And then even after they get the kill, they could still be looking to apply that pressure mid. And instead, they look for even more action. That mid tower is exposed. They already had the Herald picked up. I don't see why that isn't the play. Again, just bloodthirsty coming out from Misfits Premier. And yeah, they pick up 2 kills, but giving a shutdown to the Kai'Sa is probably worst case scenario in terms of how you want this game to go.
Lovely shockwave here by Fresskowy. And the knock up to follow up. And that's a shutdown on the Supa as well, which I actually did not catch in the heat at the moment. And he's gone for the Kraken Slayer, so recognizing that Shlatan will be wanting to go this red Kayn, wants some ability to take him down as Misfits will spot out Koldo, who just pops the ultimate. Here comes the Galio. Knockup's only going to land onto the cow, but they're able to find the kills. The taunt going to hit, and that is beef burger on the menu. The stakes will remain high, as Sertuss will not be able to find himself a kill.
Yeah, and actually, I think Herald going down mid now, but the timing's a little bit rough. Oscarinin can just clear it up, and they only get a couple of plates. G2AR Arctic, the early game looked really rough in all honesty, but they've able to bounce back and find some good plays. I love the use of the Galio ult there, and I love the patience from Koldo waiting in this brush. Woolite just completely caught unawares, and critically, because there's no ult on Jactroll as well, and he gets caught by both the knockups from the Galio, just ends up being 2 easy kills coming through.
Sertuss is able to survive thanks to the help of the Shroud, as Shlatan has now taken Rast and into that red Kayn, even though he is currently green, thanks to the skin.
So very hard to kill Shlatan is just going to be the fact of it in this game. He will so much benefit from the disruption of these fights. If one of Fresskowy or Supa goes down in team fights, it's going to become just very difficult for the rest of the team to deal for him. He's going to be hard to take down. He's going to have so much healing. But that being said, if anyone's going to be able to shred through him, Supa is going to be that person, and those extra kills coming in does help quite a bit. It's still a gold deficit for G2 Arctic. But the big takeaways, I'd say, is Misfits Premier found an advantage, didn't look to capitalize in terms of Dragon, and the Herald usage was a little bit iffy. So I feel like they could have been so much further ahead in this game if they'd kind of used those advantages. But now they are looking for that mid tower to threaten Fresskowy.
Yeah, as Agresivoo comes in, gets himself the Cyclone. The Shockwave will clip, but it's a little bit too late as the train actually slams in. Oscarinin will get knocked up, and first Tower Blood's been picked up as already the fight's coming in. Supa jumps onto the backline. Woolite gets himself a kill, but he is taken out as Supa now caught all alone. Has to flash away. The Shuriken Flick, the slow, everything used as Supa will go down. It's a double kill for Sertuss.
Just as I'm saying, Misfits Premier didn't use their aggression properly. They find a beautiful window. The great collapse coming in mid. Not really much the Orianna can do, and Koldo's waiting there, but you don't have any hard CC. There's very little you can do to disrupt it. The double knock-up, the Beers comes in, and then this play on the side, you can see the rotations looking to come. This beautiful vision control cutting in means that Wachon is spotted out, and Supa does find the turnaround kill, but critically, Woolite had just cashed in his stacks, and Misfits Premier still managed to pick up both members of the bot lane, so very much still in the French team's favor.
Absolutely. You got Fresskowy now 0-2 on the Orianna, building towards that Everfrost, but not there. Well, Sertuss 4-1 on the Akali, now finished up that Night Harvester. A lot of armor being stacked by Oscarinin. Agresivoo finished up the Trinity Force. Dragon spawning, and G2 actually, not a Drake they would really like to sneer their head at. Cloud Drake is really nice just for a little bit extra cooldown on your ultimates, being able to fire off that shockwave, and more crucially the heroic entrance, which actually has a fairly lengthy cooldown on it.
I don't think they're gonna have to give it up though. Yeah, I think at the point the game is now, the gold lead for Misfits Premier, and critically those one item spikes coming in that are so big for the likes of Sertuss, particularly on that Night Harvester. I just think you give this one up. It's not too much of a concern. And again, picking up that first dragon means Misfits Premier are still a long way from getting a dragon soul. Do you see them posturing around bot though?
Yeah, they're looking for Shlatan as the taunt will connect onto him. Supa's going to layer a lot of damage as It's going to be him flashing away to safety. They get the knock up and the CCs are coming in. The teleport's there. Here comes the Galio. Everybody's going to get slammed up. A Supa has to get a bit of space. Shuriken Flip goes wide. The shockwave lands in. And the slam is down. Agresivoo slides with a Cyclone and finds himself a double kill. This fight isn't over yet. Sertuss trying to bail out his top laner as Agresivoo goes in once again for the Cyclone, but Supa able to take him down. And Sertuss, the only one for Misfits remaining. It's the shutdown for Fresskowy and the ace for G2.
Misfits just threw. They committed to that play, and then Koldo finds a beautiful angle going in and just able to destroy the Draven and clean up the fight. Watch Koldo in this. I was ready to write him off. I stopped focusing on him because I thought he was just dead in this situation. Look how quickly his health drops here right now, the Olaf. Just gets shredded, and I'm like, okay, he's gone. And he manages to live here, actually. It's insane, the healing that comes out, and Shlatan moves on. And Koldo just keeps healing up. Eventually, Agresivoo comes and finishes him off, but he's already done so much damage with a double kill, and then it's down to the solo laners. And Fresskowy and Supa, they aren't really threatened here. The second ult comes through, but the damage isn't there. Oscarinin, beautiful body block on the Akali, and it ends up being that whole ace for the side of G2 Arctic. Beautiful play, and again, Koldo on a mad one there.
Really, really nice turnaround. And this keeps everything a little bit more closer than it was. It's a 2,000 gold lead. Actually, a 3,000 gold lead over the Misfits Premier, but not what it was. The crucial thing here.
I think the big takeaway from that fight was Supa and Fresskowy surviving for the whole time. We talked about how if you take down these carries, they're going to struggle to find pressure in these fights. They don't have the tools to sort of cut through the likes of Shlatan on this red Kayn. But when they go untouched like that, when it's a front to back, when you don't have those flank angles, G2 Arctic start looking really good.
And G2 Arctic do have a very good team fighting team. That's the kind of key thing here is Woolite on a carry that needs to snowball, and with the amount of zone control that the Galio, the Orianna afford you, it makes it very hard for Woolite to consistently catch his axes in the middle of a team fight scenario. So providing that Fresskowy and Supa can be kept alive, Misfits will struggle to have these fights. And sure, they do have tools to jump onto the Orianna, which they might be using any moment now as the Rift Herald is going to get summoned up. Fresskowy able to clear out this wave for now. The charge is going to come down, and I believe that tower will fall. Yeah. Yes, it will.
So still pushing Misfits Premier ahead, and even after that fight, they're still up 4 towers. They're still up in gold. But I think it shows if they disrespect G2 Arctic and approach it wrong, things can get a bit rough. It's 10 kills to 10, but pressure's still on. Again, G2 Arctic, they have to win this game if they want to go through. Misfits Premier have already locked first. They can't even fall to second. They are the first seed for Group B in the Bonanza. G2 Arctic need this win, though, to even have a hope, and then still need to win that next game. So things are really on a knife's edge in this one.
Well, we're approaching the 20-minute mark. 2 items now been finished off into Supa. He's got the Collector, while Woolite not got 2 items. I'd actually like to have a little look at the gold and see where we're at individually between the 2 AD carries. There is a 200-liter Woolite. He is sitting on 1,500, so he'll either be very close to his second item or be finishing it off on this base or this next couple of waves. So
yeah, I mean,
for the moment, the deficit between the AD carries will be alleviated fairly quickly. I believe he's going for the Essence Reaver, so actually still not quite there at the moment.
Yeah, has obviously picked up the tier 2 boots to mitigate things a little bit, but I mean, a big factor with Draven is even if you're not having the best game, as long as you get some cash-ins, you're going to typically have a lot of gold generation inherently. Yeah. Big gold leads, though, on the rest of the map, though. Top, Agresivoo really far ahead. And in the jungle, you can see there's still that massive CS lead. We saw that start off from the early game. It still continued throughout. The experience lead isn't too bad. It's only 1 level, so Koldo isn't too far behind, but right now Shlatan 2 items has picked up Asterix. Again, we've been highlighting all game. He's going to be a hard cookie to crack.
Well, the vision around the Baron is the attention right now for G2, but there is a lot of wards in the area that are Misfits wards, one of which will be spotted out here, this pink ward. But with the dragon spawning up in 8 seconds, G2 may just look to give this one up. And I think they're okay to do so. They were able to pick up that first Infernal Dragon. And Ocean Soul is a really, really rough one for either team to be playing against right now.
Yeah,
we're talking about the red Kayn survival and just sustain when you've got the Sterix and the Gore Drinker and just the innate sustain that this champion has. Then you got the same for the Olaf as well. Both of these champions with Ocean Soul are going to be really, really rough to deal with. Even with those Kraken Slayers and the Mortal Reminders that we'll be seeing getting picked up.
A point I will make, as much as Misfits Premier have had a great day and are looking really good in this game, I feel like they kind of messed up with the lack of priority on Drake, because I don't think it was too much of an investment for them to take it. They were significantly far ahead on the bot side, and they left it. Not only was the first Drake given over to G2 Arctic, it was a very late Dragon. It was well past 10 minutes. We could have seen it much earlier, and at this point, Misfits Premier could have been threatening that Ocean Soul. They could be pretty close to it. So it felt like kind of you have the advantage, and they didn't look to translate it into sort of that long-term strength. It was more focused on getting the kills, and it's not like that's gone badly for them, but it definitely means that this game could have been looking a bit more precarious sooner, because right now, G2 Arctic are happy just to sit back and handle those dragons. They're not too concerned until it gets to the later ones, and you don't want to be giving your opponents that window. We do not see
looking for the options, but the fight looks to be setting up here. The teleport is coming in. That's going to be the Cyclone. Supa jumps back at a 4-man shockwave. Beautiful stuff, as the Whirling Death is only going to tickle these G2 members. Agresivoo is forced out of the fight. Sertuss on the run. As Woolite just trades one last auto attack. Nobody goes down from a very, very beautiful shockwave. It was a free man. I got baited by the Wukong clone, by the way.
I can't believe that no one died there, but honestly, I think the mistake there for Misfits Premier was that was a very short flank ward. By the time the TPs had come in, G2 Arctic had already moved back. They had their frontliners in position, and again, if you're playing in a team fight and you're hitting the front line and not the back line, G2 Arctic are gonna look good.
Oh, Sertuss playing with fire, trying to steal that blue buff. Able to shuriken flip away is Misfits. They think about doing the Baron.
No,
a quick DPS check. It's not quite high enough yet, so they're going to back away.
Well, it's like, how much damage do my autos do? Also, he's actually collecting some stacks, so maybe that is the play. But
oh, smart.
Either way, that sort of fight, you need to be getting the backline access. You need a deeper flank. It's a critical thing, because ideally, you want to be connecting with the backline as other members are moving in from a different direction. That's what makes it difficult when you're playing these front-to-back compositions. If you're just landing in for the TP right on top of the front line, it's not really a flank at that point. It's kind of just coming through the front door.
It looks like Misfits may be thinking how about making a play towards the bot side onto Oscarinin, but peel back towards the mid lane. Supa hasn't actually got his AD carry, his support with him, and there actually is no Galio R as well, so Supa does have to be a little bit careful for the moment.
Sion is so tanky, by the way.
He has so much armor, and I was kind of looking over the items right now. He's got his Sterix, he's got the Ninja Tabby
Sterix as well, so he's going to be putting out, like, that gives extra AD. He's going to be doing a lot of damage if he gets a fully channeled Q and ultimate, and he is the highest level in the game, so
he's huge, like actually huge, and he doesn't really need that much magic resist, if any, because the only magic threat is Sertuss, and Sertuss's job is not a tank buster. He is not there to kill the tank. He will struggle to do so even without the magic resist.
Absolutely. And
so it actually just makes Woolite's life harder. And it also, crucially, with the fact that he's got the Bramble Vest, applying a little bit of anti-heal and from those grievous wounds to stop the sustain from Shlatan.
I think his Draven isn't really the best tank killer. He has got items to do so with the Kraken Slayer and Low Dominics, but typically just in his kit, he's better at just exploding squishy targets. Especially because obviously in a situation where you're autoing a lot against a tank, it's, you know, any CC that comes in can disrupt it and just make it difficult to chain your axes. He still does a fair amount of damage to him. Obviously not ideal. Shlatan, though, is a threat. And Oscarinin does need to be careful. I think he's feeling hype, hyping him up. Like, you're super tanky. It's like, okay, but you will die if you stand in the tower.
Tanky doesn't mean immortal, as Wachon is going to get caught out. Throws out the taunt, and Sertuss, as much as he's going to be able to find there. They are going to force Oscarinin to go for a reset, however. Off the back of this is Sertuss, almost caught out. The taunt is going to land. The ball is on Wachon, but they're not going to fire anything else off here for the moment. Dragon spawning up in 35 seconds. Now, G2 don't have to pick this one up, but it puts them into a very precarious situation if they decide to give this one over. Teleports are getting used, and to me, that signals that these guys are going to want to fight for this one.
Yeah, they're looking for the mid priority. There are deeper wards here available for the flank, so I think this is Misfits Premier going to play. They don't have the TP though, so it would just have to be them walking in. And ultimately, they don't have Agresivoo in position. It's still a good 30 seconds of both those teleports. So I guess I'll just miss the opportunity. But now the flank is coming in.
Oh, they're trying to turn around as Oscarinin misses the ultimate. Everybody's going to get caught out for the moment. Shlatan jumps in, uses the Umbral Trespass, a 3-man headbutt. Sertuss slides in, the shockwave lands. Here comes the Galio, interrupted by the Cyclone. And G2 are just falling apart to Misfits. Everybody is split up. It's a triple kill to Woolite. And Oscarin's going to get run down by Sertuss. The 5-point strike slowing him down little by little, as he has to flash over the wall, but Shlatan will follow up, and Oscarinin going to slowly but surely lose his life as they do get the reset out from the... Nope, no. Supa's dead.
Yep, goodbye. Wukong just going to chase that one down, and it's going to be a delayed ace, but will eventually come through. They should just be able to translate that into a... I mean, they could look for the Baron in this situation. I think they are going to go, and I think they'll actually be able to get both. Draven has enough damage with the Wukong there as well. So both objectives going to likely be secured here. Koldo is running over. Bear in mind, the jungler's on the other side of the map, and they know that. So maybe this actually ends up being a bit of a poor play.
He doesn't have smite. Not yet. It's very soon. It's very soon. You are right, though. They don't know that. And watch on spots Jactroll. Jactroll low HP. Teleports are coming in. Here comes Fresskowy. They have to try and get in time. Can Koldo do it? His smite's not quite available yet. He pops himself the R. Here's the backup teleport. Jactroll loses life as Fresskowy catches out one for the moment. The Baron's going to get reset. And here comes the turnaround once again. It's a double kill for Sertuss. And Fresskowy has no teammates at his back. G2 are routed once again by Misfits Premier, who pick up their 3rd Ocean Drake of the game. Baron, crucially though, will remain alive for now.
Yeah, you could see they didn't know we didn't have the cooldown, which is why they didn't go for the finish. But before that, we'll look at this replay. They feel desperate. They know they're being collapsed in on, and they burn all this CC trying to swarm and engage. And because of that, they don't have the follow-up CC. The fight starts. They don't have the lockdown that they typically have in previous fights. And essentially, they just get absolutely decimated in this situation. Misfits Premier finds just a funnel forwards, and Woolite gets a triple kill. Looking monstrous now. But again, massive win for Misfits Premier. Back-to-back taking those 2 fights and getting that dragon. But the Baron, they saw Koldo come in. They didn't want to flip it because, again, they didn't know he didn't have smite. And it's a very, very, very weak silver lining. More of a copper lining, in all honesty. But G2AR didn't end up giving over the Baron. But they are now 10,000 gold behind. And it's 4 minutes to that Ocean Soul. Misfits Premier, we've seen this from them all day. We knew this would be a hard matchup. And G2AR, this is our last chance and things are looking rough.
Although I will say this, it's not been a complete whitewash. The last 2 team fights have been, but G2 have not rollen over in this game. They've not just accepted demise. They are still fighting it tooth and nail. But with this Baron spawning up, Oscarinin no teleport, Agresivoo teleport, means it is a little bit harder for them to try and contest this, although Oscarinin can move around the map fairly quickly. He's got the tier map finished up as well, so has got a bit of an additional wave clear to work with. But the vision is just so favored towards Misfits. Is Koldo thinking about it? But thank you very much. The observers are going to show us the vision, and it is just red. Yeah, there's a couple of wards still up, giving some information, but they are now being swept out, so that's when things get a little bit difficult. I mean, Supa and Wachon are waiting there. There's not really much you can do. You're not really going to be able to find a pick easily on the likes of Jactroll or Shlatan, and now Baron has been started. They should suspect this. Blue Trinket's going to come down. But you can see Sertuss already waiting on the flank, and Shlatan is position as well, but they might just finish it. It's going fast. It's low. I don't think Koldo can get in time. He doesn't have flash, and that is the Baron picked up, but the fight is going on the sidelines as Fresskowy comes forward looking for that Orianna shockwave. Can he find it? Galio fired out, not going to hit onto anyone but a clone.
Let's just don't need this fight.
Unable to find a kill.
Yeah, I love this decision from Misfits. You could feel the sense that maybe things weren't going as easily. The front line was able to disrupt. Fresskowy was there with a shockwave. So Misfits go, fine, we'll just back off. We have the Baron, we got what we wanted. They don't need to opt into that. And with 2 minutes on that potential Ocean Soul, they're in a really good spot. So there's no reason to coin flip it. I love the restraint.
Now you got the dragon spawning up in 2 minutes time. That will be Soul, which makes team fighting even harder. They've only got 1 person supplying grievous wounds right now on the side of GT. Agresivoo level 17.
Yeah, I mean, he was lower level than Oscarinin, and he's managed to overtake. Baron obviously given a lot of experience. And you can see GA now picked up for Woolite. 4 items locked in for that Draven. Going to be doing so much damage right now. And realistically, there's not actually that much armor on Oscarinin at this point.
I mean, it's being displayed right now. That axe did so much damage, but they are looking for it. It's just going to be the taunt onto the clone as Jactroll's coming in forward, looks at the headbutt pole, forces the teleport out as the ball is zoning away. Shlatan dealing with a wave in the top side, which is going to pull G2 Arctic over there, while Sertuss pushes in on the mid lane. It's just crumbling on all fronts right now as Fresskowy going to get jumped onto by Shlatan. First turret's going to go down, quickly followed by the second turret. The fight's going to break out, and that is already the front line down. Woolite will get his GA popped, but that is going to be him resurrecting as the 2-man shockwave comes in from Fresskowy. Uses the stopwatch as Agresivoo caught out by Supa, although Supa may be caught out by him. He jumps in one more time for the kill, finds it, but Woolite will look to take him down. Supa gets himself one. He's trying to run away. He's got a double kill, but I don't think he can go far. And this is it. G2's hopes have been dashed by Misfits Premier. As the LFL find themselves another win here at the European Masters. And it was already cemented that they take first seed in the group. But a dominant 3-0 for Misfits on week number 2 of the European Masters.
And it's rough for G2 Arctic, because honestly, I think their play in this game and the previous game, I think they definitely could have made a better run in this group. But their week 1 was just so awful. And it's weighed them down heavily. They had such an uphill battle coming into this week. And it's just proved to be too difficult. Beating Misfits Premier in this current form looks very hard. And as a result, that was a last chance, and they are now out of the tournament. There's still stakes in this next game. G2 Arctic obviously will still be trying to compete and show what they can do, but it's a Go Rogues opportunity. They have to win to force a tiebreaker, and if they lose that one, they will end up getting knocked out. So still very much stakes on this last game. But Misfits Premier 5-1 in the group stage. Not flawless, but a pretty solid result all around.
Yeah, yeah, like you're saying, the stakes are still alive for our last game, so there's still stuff to play for, but for the side of G2 Arctic, that is their time here at the European Masters, drawing to a close. But for now, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but now it's time to earn some dosh. We'll see you after the break.
It feels good, so good, coming back again. There's enough above fear and its pain. Letting go of memories, knowing they get to find me. There's enough above, feels good. Starting to believe what will be, will be. Overlooking back, where's the point in that? And it feels good, so good, coming back again, rising up above fear and its pain. Let it
And we're back with that Misfits. Well, not with that. Misfits had already secured themselves first as they knock G2 out of the tournament with a... Honestly, I don't want to say dominating, actually, because it kind of snowballed towards being dominating, but I think there was a section in that game where it was very competitive between the two teams, but ultimately it did just fall apart a little bit too quickly for G2, and they didn't have an answer back.
Yeah, I mean, it was aggression from minute one, and this is kind of what we've expected to see from Misfits Premier. They are a team who like to start the game early and get rolling. This early gank coming in bot lane really set the stage, and there was some really nice execution around plays like this one where they looked to punish Fresskowy. It wasn't all flawless. There were definitely some things they would like to work on before they get into the knockout stage. And there were some questionable decisions, but for the most part, this is showing the form that we've seen from this week 2 Misfits Premier. They look really dominant. And G2AR, it's not like they didn't put up a fight. There were some windows. I think this is one that we're going to see where Koldo did so much work, but ultimately it just wasn't enough. And it's sad because I think this level of play, as I said before, we could have seen G2AR potentially getting out of groups. But unfortunately, that first week going 0-3 just set them too far behind.
Yeah, it's unfortunately one of those things where if you're GT, you might be kicking yourself a little bit about that first week, but it's what happens. And now our second series of the day is going to mean that a Go Rogue need to win this, otherwise their chances of making it out of the group stages will just evaporate entirely. But honestly,
I mean, evaporate like G2AR in this team fight.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those fights that, like you were saying, when they started it, it was because they felt like they had to start it, and they just got steamrolled. I mean, you can see the gold graph over time. There's that little plateau after about 20 minutes, or just before 20 minutes, where that was where it was competitive. That's where the gold lead was slowly but surely being clawed back. But Woolite doing almost 30k damage on the Draven. We said it needed a snowball, and oh boy, it did.
Yeah, absolutely. They got the early kills, they got the stacks in, got that triple kill later on, and it was just doing so much damage. Credit, it's a pick we don't often see in pro play, especially since they made the change that you lose 75% of the stacks, not 50%. It means it's a lot more volatile, but they made it work. And I feel like with a lot of the comps we've seen from Misfits Premier, like they have this pro composition with a Zoe and a Jace. They're picking things that are volatile, and it's pretty exciting to see. I respect the fact that they're going for these sort of picks and they're making them work. It's interesting. Yeah. It's dynamic, I'll say, but they are going through, so you will see more of them. And now we can sort of scope in on our next game where, again, G2AR still have an opportunity to prove themselves, which I'm sure they'd love to do after a rough EU Masters run, but a Go Rogue. Considering this is the first seed for the Ultra Liga, and if they don't win this game, they are out. They are the reigning champions. And if they don't win this game, they're out. And it'll be Supa who will place above them. So everything kind of relies on this. And again, even if they win this game, they still have a tiebreaker to play. They have even head-to-head with Supa now.
I think this is a real kind of bruise on the pride, isn't it? If a Go Rogue lose here, getting knocked out by the Balkans as well, a region which haven't had the greatest showing at the European Masters since the first one, all the way back in 2018. It's been a while, and Supa, the dream for them is very much alive. If a Go Rogue win here, it's in their hands, but it's also slightly in G2AR's hands here for the Balkans. If G2 win this, Supa are in. There's no questions. The defending champs are out. And obviously it's a different Go Rogue. It's not the same Go Rogue, but for the org and for the region, for the Ultra Liga, get those two muddled up every now and then. You know, our Polish fans, they'll be heartbroken to see their defending champs knocked out in the group stages and not even make it to the playoffs.
I think there's a thing as well, as much as it's new players on the roster, it kind of weighs more on them because there's that expectation. You know, you join an org who's just won EU Masters, who obviously has done great in both within like the European regional leagues and within the LEC. The weight of expectations is weighing on you heavily, and you want to look to deliver on that. You did manage to win your region with the close finals, and credit to them, but to get knocked out in groups is a massive disappointment. Honestly, from my perspective, I feel like if you're coming in as a Go Rogue reigning champions, with how strong the Ultra Liga is, being first seed, I expect a top 4 finish minimum. If you get knocked out in groups, it's a disappointment. That's just a flat out fact. So everything's on them in the next game. It's not a scenario where we're like, oh, if this goes this way, if this goes that way. We have one game left for Group B before tiebreakers, and you have to win it. It's that simple.
It really is that cut and dry. There is, like you said, one game, a Go Rogue win, they keep their hopes alive. If they lose, that is it. That is them done. That is Sup Up and Misfits as the two teams leaving Group B. But it's time for a quick break. And when we're back, we're back with G2AR taking on a Go Rogue. This is going to be a doozy. We'll see you in a moment.